Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerers Guild. Today on Magical Theory, we are going to be talking about locking sigils. Now, what is a locking sigil? A locking sigil is a secondary hidden sigil that you place place on or around your original sigil to lock its intent in place and prevent outside manipulation. Now, when would you need a locking sigil? Now, one of the most common reasons for a locking sigil is when you are asking for a charge or getting a shared charge for a sigil. What that means by a shared charge for a sigil is you are asking someone else to perform the charge and release form aspects of the sigil's casting. The reason that you might do this is that if it's a intent that you have a deep want for or a deep need, or it's just something that you are uncomfortable with and you're going to be thinking about a lot after you cast it, that hampers the release aspect of the spell. When you are thinking about the sigil, worrying about it after it's been released, it's like you're pulling back on it and messing with the form and not allowing the release to happen completely. This is often referred to as the lust for results power sap, and it hampers the ability for your spell to manifest. So to counter that, if it is a spell that you know you're not going to be able to stop thinking about, you can ask someone else to charge it for you. In fact, there are several groups on Facebook that are there simply for that purpose. People post sigils there, and then other people in the group charge the sigil for them and release it. And that prevents the lust for results, because then you are not directly involved in the charge or release aspect of the spell. So you are unable to pull it back even if you are thinking about it. Now, this does leave you vulnerable, because the people charging the spell for you and releasing it for you could either intentionally change the intent in some way by the type of charge that they use or the way that they release it, or they could simply not completely be understanding what it is you're trying to achieve, and their thought process as they are charging and releasing the sigil may be so counter to your original idea that it could change the intent of the sigil as it's being released. So to prevent that from happening, you place a locking sigil on the sigil. Now, as I mentioned, this is a hidden sigil because you don't want them to be able to see it, because if they find it, they may be able to figure out how to unlock it. Let me go ahead and demonstrate what I mean. Our first sigil, we'll just say that we want a sigil to find love. We're just going to go ahead and make one up here. It'll be a circle with a heart and a little eye in the center, like so. Very simple, very basic sigil, but you were going to send this to be charged to someone else. So now that you've got it like that, you could maybe decide, well, I'm going to add some eyelashes, and then inside of this eyelash we do a up and a down. You can't even actually see it, but it's inside the eyelash there, just a little like upside down T to symbolize the locking sigil. So it's not something that needs to be seen. And then you could even add a few more out here as decoys in case they find those. And those don't actually mean anything. It's just that if they're looking for the locking sigils, rather than finding the correct one, they would find one of these lines on the side that don't actually mean anything. You can even, if you wanted to, add a little more obvious one, but then put a little hook. See a little hook in it there at the bottom? That is to cause it to be a rebound. And what that is essentially a booby trap. So that if they try to unlock the sigil there, that would respond with a negative impact on them, pulling and hook the sigil to them. That one isn't necessarily have any direct intent, but that's how you would design a booby trap type locking sigil to actually punish people for trying to change the intent of your spell. Now, there are other times when you might use a locking sigil besides when you were using shared sigils. If you are putting a sigil on a place where you're not going to be around to observe it as a ward, you could put a locking sigil on that as well to prevent people from removing that ward. Like if you had a aversion sigil on a cave that you had things hidden in, and someone else came along that also practiced magic, they might notice that sigil and try to undo it so that they wouldn't feel trepidation on entering the cave. If it had a locking sigil in it, it would prevent them from removing that ward. And like I said, you can booby trap those as well with other little locking, what appear to be locking sigils, but that actually have repercussion spells in them. You can get much more complex than just the little rebound hook that I did on that pretend sigil we made a few moments ago. But that is the general concept. I like to put several, and you can actually make it so that they have to hit all of them in a certain pattern to create or to unlock the sigil. Okay, so that will be it for this episode of Magical Theory. Thank you once again for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. And don't forget to join us for the next episode of Sorcery in Action on Friday. So until then, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.